Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset. Welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen here with my co-host, Dr. and Coach Sam Rhee. And we have a very special guest today. I've been eyeing this one up for a long time.
Ooh, wow.
And we finally found the right time. It actually happens to be about 18 hours after Marissa's first individual CrossFit competition. But this is Marissa Liza. Marissa, how are you?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm feeling quite good after the first solo comp.
Yep.
Definitely a good experience. Got, a little taste.
a little taste of...
A little taste of going from number 1 to number 11, but that's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, that was it was a great day yesterday. We had so many people compete. We had 15 people. Shout out to 908 Athletics for hosting yet another awesome Garden State Open. I think they said it was their 9th, if I have that right, or 10th. And Marissa, along with 14 other people from our gym, competed yesterday.
And you.
And myself, yes. And we're both a little beat up for different reasons. But she did awesome. I'm really proud of her. And I really give her a lot of credit for waking up the next morning and coming into and recording with us. So thank you again for coming in.
No, thanks for having me.
So, Marissa, we have you on for a couple different reasons here, but how do I call it? Acupuncturist?
Acupuncturist.
Yes. All right, good.
Good job.
She's a very good acupuncturist that many of us at CrossFit Bison have used. Obviously, that's her clientele goes much deeper than that, but there's a lot of people from here. And I actually got first introduced to her via John Hartman so long ago in that, hey, my friend Marissa, she wants to try out CrossFit, blah, 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 came in. And here we are about 6 years later. I have you sticking needles in my legs and my forearms. It's come a long way. Let's get into just a little bit of a brief introduction to you, and just so the listeners can kind of get a feel for who you are.
So first of all, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. First, my CrossFit side was like, I didn't think CrossFit was for me. I was just like, this is not for me. I like my, spin classes and my boot camp. And then I took my first class. Actually, my second class hit my nose on the barbell, bled all over the place. Poor Coach Ramsden was like, oh my God, are you okay? Left, super embarrassed. I was like, this is not for me. So I left for probably 6 or 7 months. And then I was like, all right, I think I'm ready to try. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to remember, you're the girl. It doesn't matter. So I came back and super happy I did because I just found an awesome, not only workout, but community. And,
awesome.
It's been great. So.
Yeah, no, you've been a pleasure to work with just on multiple different fronts. Great influence on the gym.
Thanks.
And I'm looking forward to the future as well. So let's discuss your background, pre-CrossFit. You can go back as far as possible if you want. What led you to your current career in acupuncture?
Sure. So kind of a cool story. The way it happened is I really loved performing and the arts and dance and singing. And I wanted it because I really loved connecting with people. I just thought that when people would go and see a show or see a concert, you feel really good after. So I thought that would be a great career for me. I liked it. So I wasn't really a college person, didn't want to go to college. My parents were fine with that. They were like, as soon as you graduate high school, as long as you work and you're figuring it out, you're good. So I was sort of working and auditioning and finding opportunities. And then I was working out at this gym in Paramus, and this woman that I worked out with said, hey, I work for this acupuncturist. They're looking for somebody to work a couple hours here and there to manage the office. Would you want to try it? And I was like, yeah, sure. I needed to make money. So I started there. And that was really my first introduction.
Oh, sweet.
And it actually happened to be in the office that I now run and
rent. Oh,
yeah. So it's pretty
creature
cool.
of habit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So this was my first introduction, and I was their front desk and ended up staying there for many years, probably about 4 or 5 years. And I liked creating a nice atmosphere where people came in, they felt warm and welcome, and they got good care, and they were really getting better. And I was like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And then I started doing it, and I started getting better, feeling the results of this. I'm like, this is pretty awesome. So fast forward, I was like, I don't know what to do anymore. I wasn't getting hired. I mean, I really wasn't that good. As a dancer or performing artist,
right.
I was not going to make money at it. It was fun, but it certainly wasn't going to be a career.
Right.
And then I left that office and I worked at another practice, which was a much bigger practice. It was a totally different feel. It was just how many people can we see? How many patients can we treat? How much money can we bring in?
Had more a corporate feel.
Yeah, corporate feel. Yeah. And that was my first introduction to I never want to be like this.
Right.
And then somebody's like, why don't you go back to school? I'm like, I'm not a school person. And sort of like you just get to a point where like, I need to make a change. I need to do something. And I was 27 at the time. And I was like, that's it. And I just took a risk and was like, I'm going to go back to school. And that was sort of it.
Wow.
I mean, I even had I had no associates. Didn't have a bachelor's. So I had to get my bachelor's degree, and then I had to go on to acupuncture school.
It's funny. We just had like a conversation with some people after the gym. Like sometimes like, some of the best conversations you have in the gym are after a workout.
Yeah.
Like you're just, you're fired up. The endorphins are running. You're a little bit more vulnerable at that point. And one of the best conversations I had in the past week or two was with Anthony from the 7 a.m. just talking about kids and how expensive college is now these days, and how much pressure these 16-year-olds have on them to figure out what they want to do with the rest of their life. You just don't know. And honestly, some kids are blessed with they know right away what they want to do. But that path to don't go to college because you don't really know yet. And then you actually go into the work field and you actually start to see, all right, this is what life is like if I do something like this. Is the kind of impact. This is how happy I am in this line of work. That was the path that you took. And you started that education, you said, when you were around 27?
Yeah.
What was the actual education process? Like, how long did you have to do, how long were you in school for that?
I was in school a total of 6 years. I had to get my bachelor's degree. So
Had to do that first.
yeah, no, I had to get an associate's to get into acupuncture school.
Got it.
But New Jersey requires you to have a bachelor's degree to get an acupuncture license.
Interesting.
So I kind of found an adult program. It was actually kind of funny because I went back to Bergen Community, and I'm like 27 years old in a class with 17-year-olds.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
like, be quiet. I'm trying to learn here, please. Like at that point, I was so into school where it's like I'd quit 3 times earlier. So it was funny just sort of being like really into school at that time.
Okay.
So I got my bachelor's degree, and then I went to acupuncture school, which was 4 years. And then we had to take, so acupuncture school, I have my master's in acupuncture. You can go on and get your doctorate. I do not have that. There are a lot of providers that do. Okay. And then it is 3 board exams and then a New Jersey exam to get your license. So
that is a process.
Yeah. So and it's funny I say that because sometimes I'll have patients, they'll come in and they'll say, did you go to school for this? I'm like, yeah, I did.
Yeah. For sure.
And it's more so they just don't know. They think maybe they learned it from somebody else or, and that we have strict rules and regulations in education so we can provide good care.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're done with school.
Yeah.
And you start working for a practice. Mm-hmm. And that's the one that you're at right now? You're at that location?
No, I actually started in one other practice while I was starting my own practice.
Okay.
So I worked one day in one office, and then I was sort of also building my own back in the office that I'm in now. Okay. And I was working for somebody, and it worked well. It was a good opportunity because you get out of school and it's just like, oh, there's a patient there.
Yeah.
And, there's no supervisor there.
Right.
It's a whole other experience. Even though in acupuncture school, your last year, you're treating patients the whole year.
Right.
But so that was a good way to sort of get used to treating patients on my own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that also, we can probably relate to each other on this is, you had this passion for acupuncture. You went through all this training. You're ready to go. What was it like to try to transition from, all right, I'm passionate about acupuncture, I want to do this too, at the same time you're also trying to build a business? At some point, that is what it is.
Sure.
If we really strip everything down to the bones, it's a business.
It's a business.
And just briefly talk about some of the highs and lows that building a business within your passion kind of brought to you.
I think probably the biggest thing was I wanted to help everyone, and I was like, I just want to help people. And I was scheduling above my office working hours.
Yep.
I was not charging people because they're like, oh, I can't really. I'm like, oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like, you want to do that? That's fine.
Yep.
But I just wanted to introduce them to such an awesome medicine and say, I can really help you.
I mean, I would even say at the start, that's necessary.
I get,
in some cases.
In some cases.
At some point, you have to cut that off.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also trying to get out there and promote yourself. And I mean, I didn't know how to market. I still don't know how to market. I really don't and I don't enjoy it. Like this, thank you for this, because this is I just want to talk to people and educate them, and then they can make an informed decision about their care. Yep. And I think that was probably the biggest thing was learning that I can't just there are certain people that I will not be able to help, and sort of to set boundaries with yourself as a provider.
Sam, any opening thoughts?
Yeah, it's just so interesting. I actually think both of you guys have some parallels in terms of life choice, and I think it resonates with you, Dave.
Yep. I was just nodding my head hard over here while she was talking.
Because neither of you knew at age 18 or or 21 exactly what you wanted to do.
Yep.
And you guys were working and doing stuff, but it wasn't what really worked for you guys. And then she found acupuncture and was really turned on by it. You found CrossFit, was really turned on by it. She spent years doing all this extra training and certification.
Yep.
And then you spent a weekend getting your L1 and then you were off.
Oh, cool.
It's so true.
So similar. I can't believe it.
That schooling was so hard. Man, I can't believe that L1 test. Oh, man. Previously asking the guy for answers as I take my test.
So, but again, following your dream and finding what really drives you as a passion takes time sometimes. And once you do it, it's the right thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And I'm sure Marissa could probably relate to this as well. As on the flip side of that, sometimes when you are doing something you're very passionate about for work, you get that line like, "Oh, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life." Like that line is complete garbage in my eyes. There are sometimes because you're so passionate about what you do, and it is your passion and hobby or your work, it actually can make you overwork yourself sometimes.
Totally.
And I'm sure we'll kind of get into that.
Yeah.
At some point, I also want to talk about acupuncture and what people can get out of this, but I also want to talk about your business and where you plan to take it. But let's kind of dive into the meat of this and really trying to look at this from the perspective of a CrossFitter or someone, outside of CrossFit that's very active with their body, right? I personally, and Sam, you can give your experience too with Marissa. I've personally have been to acupuncture with Marissa. Probably a few dozen times, I would say. And it's usually because, Marissa, I just got hurt at the gym and I'm competing in 3 weeks. Can you fix me?
Oh, wait, and I would say this was like a really good learning lesson. Like when you came in right before you went to Legend. Right?
Yeah.
Like Dave came in and he had this
forearm issue.
Forearm. And I was like, okay, I really want to help you. But you know what? Like you sort of have to say, this is also not my responsibility. And I don't mean that in a bad way, right?
No,
it was just like, I'm going to do the best that I can for you. And that's it.
Well, we talk about that as coaches all the time.
Yeah.
We talked about that on the podcast with athletes and coaching athletes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it actually is, and I remember when she would tell this to me, it's almost like a sit down, like, all right, Dave, like we're going to do this and this and this, but just so you know, this might not fix you the way you want to be fixed because you're so close to it was weeks away from the comp. And it was a pretty significant, like to the point I couldn't hang from a pull-up bar. Weeks out of a comp, right? And but I immediately, before she was even finishing her sentences, I knew exactly what she was going to say, and I was completely understood.
Yeah.
And that acupuncture and any form of treatment is meant to maybe get the ball rolling and help, but it's not going to solve the issue, and it's not. And I never want her or any PT that's ever worked on me to feel pressure that like, hey, if I'm not ready to go in a few weeks, it's your fault. Just like we would never want someone that says, hey, I didn't hit my fitness goal in the gym, Dave, like that's my coach's fault. We really kind of have to separate. She has to separate herself from the results of every single person that comes in. So I bring that up because I've used Marissa to help solve injury issues. And I know when there's an injury, let's say there's 10 things that are going to help me get better. This is one of them. It's not the one of one, right? And that I can confidently say that with both things in the past year that I really have needed help with, acupuncture helped. And I'm not saying that because Marissa's here. Like I would say it to anyone. I've told people outside, off camera, not with a big shiny light in my face, right? As we're, talking about Marissa's business, it genuinely helped. And I want to kind of get into that side of it first. Sam, what have you used acupuncture for?
Desperation again as well.
Yeah, right. Something new to try.
Right.
Because the Theragun wasn't working. Right.
That's exactly right. CrossFitters are a desperate lot. We will rely on talismans and we'll do anything to try to get back in a very fast fashion once we self-abuse ourselves and injure ourselves.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
And it was no different. Over the years, I've done lots of different treatments for lots of different injuries that were all self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Most of it was too much volume, overuse, bad form, things that you learn as you go along.
Right.
But it was the same thing. It was an elbow issue, and it was acute. And I was desperate because I think the Open was coming up.
Yep.
And so I don't like seeing providers. It's no offense to Marissa.
Sure.
Any provider, like,
Yeah.
Right.
I guess it's one of those, since I'm a provider, I just don't want to bother anyone.
Right.
I don't want to,
That's part of it. It
Yeah.
is.
make anyone deal with my problems.
Yep.
I feel like I'm a physician. I should be able to handle myself and
Right.
figure out what's going on and
Right.
take care of myself.
Right.
So it took a pretty bad tendinitis to really get me to see somebody. And then I saw Marissa, and I would say I'd never had acupuncture before. I was one of the very same people like everyone else who's very apprehensive, needles, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And I went, and, she has a great demeanor.
Yep.
She's very straightforward.
Knows her stuff.
Knows her stuff.
Yep.
Knew to start me light and not go like full intensity in terms of treatment.
Really would have never seen another provider ever again.
Right. So she gauged me appropriately, got treatment. And I would say the number one thing I remember is it was a relatively pleasant feeling.
Yeah.
Like kind of a little numb, acutely better. Didn't make it, permanently better.
Right.
But I just came out of there saying, okay.
You came out like 1 to 5% better than you came in.
Yeah,
And that's
like-
really at that point when you're desperate like that. That's all you really want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that combined with some rest and, she kept following up with me, but I didn't keep bugging her about it. I was
Right.
like, okay, I know what I really need to do with
Sure.
this.
Right.
And that's it. I think as CrossFitters, we tend to, especially when we're so enthusiastic and we're so excited and we really want to get better at so many different things,
Yeah.
we really push. And I see it every day as a coach.
Yep.
When I talk to people, they're in the gym on a Wednesday and I'm like, why are you here? I thought your shoulder wasn't feeling so great. And we're doing like 1,000,000 pull-ups. And they're like, well, this is my therapy and I need to come.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
Yes.
And I don't have a problem. I really try to work with the athletes.
Yep.
But listen, sometimes things do flare. Sometimes we have issues that even to the best of our ability, we still have things that get sore, have problems,
Right.
Things that we need help managing.
Right.
And I would say that one of the first things, if that were to happen again, because it can happen to anyone working out for any reason, I would go seek acupuncture treatment.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
So Marissa,
Yeah.
we just talked about some physical issues that we've both had, right? And let's get into that side of it first, because I know there's a whole nother side or multiple sides to acupuncture. It's not
Yes.
just like, hey, you're hurt. Here's your desperation needle to the arm. Hopefully it helps, right?
Mhm.
What do you want CrossFitters to know, or people that are very active that use acupuncture for physical repair? What are things you want them to know if they're going to come to you and say like, hey, I have this issue. Can you help me out?
Sure. Well, I think one of the first things I want people to understand is that the more you ignore a problem, it's not going to go away. And I would hope that acupuncture would be sort of their first line of treatment, where it's like, all right, you know what? I got some neck pain, my neck's a little cranky, or I've been sort of having this back pain, and I roll it out, but it's really not getting better. We tend, not just as CrossFitters, I think just as individuals, to sort of make excuses, right? We're just like, oh, yeah, well, got a little older,
Yep,
or, I sat down too long, and you don't need to do that,
Right.
We sort of make excuses for that. So I would hope that somebody would say, it's almost like the smoke alarm is going off. There's a fire,
Right.
The
Yep.
more you keep ignoring it, the worse it's going to get. So I should get some form of treatment. And I do think that we need, as much as we can stretch and roll out, and it's really important, I think we definitely need another, whether it's acupuncture or somebody else working on us, we all need soft tissue work.
Okay.
And that's where acupuncture is really good. And the big thing that we CrossFitters, or I say people don't understand, is the role of how we train so hard all the time and what that does to our nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge thing.
Yeah, it is.
And, a lot of us, we come in, whether you're training hard or whether you're just doing this for fitness and fun, it's still a big stress on our nervous system. And
A lot of
we leave
intensity.
here. It's a lot of intensity. And we leave here. And I give so much credit to so many people here. I mean, I look at them and I'm like, how do you do that? And then go home and take care of your children and then work. And it's like, it's amazing that we do this. And but it's like this constant, like,
Always on.
operating at this level. And then we also don't give ourselves enough credit to say, like, oh, I'm not sure why I don't feel so well.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, because you're always doing something.
Always on, yeah.
Right? And that's where acupuncture is really good because it gives your nervous system a rest. And I think that's one of the, when they say, how does acupuncture help heal yourself?
Yep.
Because it forces your body to go into that parasympathetic state or out of that fight or flight,
right.
Which we are in that fight or flight, even if it's a good one, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's a good stress, we're still in that state.
Yep.
So it's forcing your body out of that and sort of just nurturing your body back.
So explain in layman's terms, like if someone, just has no idea like what actually is happening inside my body, like you just briefly touched on it. If I come in and I am trying to prevent an injury rather than treat an injury, me and Sam were more like, hey, we're trying to treat an injury.
Okay.
But if I'm really trying to prevent something, what does acupuncture actually do to the mind and body when I'm coming in, and whether it's weekly treatment, biweekly treatment, to help me prevent from getting hurt?
The best way I describe acupuncture is we've all been stuck in traffic around Bergen County.
Yeah.
Right? Always been want to go somewhere. We're sitting there. We want to get someplace. We get annoyed. We get aggravated. And then as soon as you find out what's going on and you see traffic lightening up, it's like, right? You just sort of just take a deep breath.
Yep.
It really is the same thing that happens in our body. I mean, acupuncture is based on a meridian system where we have, I hate to say the word chi, but it's chi, it's blood, energy, oxygen, lymphatic system.
Yep.
And when we're stressed out, whether it's good stress of acupuncture or, of CrossFit or just stress of life, everything gets locked up. Our body just becomes locked up. And so acupuncture just sort of frees the energy, or just like we free the traffic.
Right.
That's really the best way to explain
that's a great visual.
how it works. And it's almost like when your cell phone's not working or anything's not working, you're just like, let me unplug it for a while, and then it sort of resets. It's the same thing.
And that's where I really do think that the mind and body connection is huge with acupuncture.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because a lot of our physical issues come from the mental stress. We just did a 3-part series with Sean O'Hara on mental health and how much it really does relate to your physical health.
And I mean, if you open a Chinese medicine textbook, it's like, what are the causes of disease? And it's emotions, it's stress, it's weather, it's diet. I mean, this is sort of this really old 2,000-year-old medicine, but it really can relate to modern times.
I mean, I could tell, because I kind of want to shift this to the mental side of this too, is you do treat people that don't necessarily have physical issues, right?
Correct.
A lot of them have, whether it's anxiety issues or they want the relaxation period. Whenever I've been to Marissa, right, she sticks all the needles in. Sometimes they hurt. I never act like they hurt, but
you good? Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm totally good. She's like, Dave, you're shaking. He goes, relax. I'm like, I'm fine. All right.
Dave, you might need to go home and change your clothes again because you're sweating.
But when she leaves the room, she's done sticking the needles in, right? She leaves, she shuts the lights off, and it's like a 15-minute period-ish.
Yeah, like a little over 20 minutes.
Okay, a little over 20 minutes. And it's, you fall asleep, but not quite. You kind of daze. And I'm telling you, in that moment when she comes in, it is the most relaxed I think I feel. And it's almost to the point I have a hard time driving because I'm so groggy.
Yes.
Because I just got out of that, fight or flight, like you just said. Let's talk briefly about the mental side of things and what you think people could use this for that are just constantly on and stressed.
Again, I keep going back to the nervous system, but it manifests in so many ways. You just see people that they're irritable, or they have, short fuses, or a lot of the things that I like to treat are digestive issues.
Okay.
Sometimes stress goes to different parts of our body. It's not always our back, our shoulders, our neck. We get a nervous stomach, or we just feel this feeling of a little bit out of control. And I especially see it now, post-pandemic. It's, all those times where it was do I send my kids to school? Do I not send my kids to school? How am I going to work out? Do I not work out? Who got sick at the gym? It's just constantly bing, 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 bing. And so it's really helping sort of take that mental state down and making you, I shouldn't say, every medicine has its limitations.
Correct.
Right? I don't think acupuncture is the cure-all, be-all for everything. And I think that medicine is really a combination of, and healthcare is a combination of a lot of different things. But acupuncture can help you manage life better.
Okay.
Right? Whereas I tell people, they're not going to notice, oh, I'm so anxiety-free right now, right?
Right.
There's always going to be stresses in our life, but it's maybe the things that made you want to, let's say, yell at your kid or something, or
right.
just get frustrated. Your body is just down a couple of notches where it's all right, I can I feel more in control. I
Right.
can manage this better.
Okay.
Right. So you don't get to that point where you feel like I've lost it.
Right.
And
It's I mean, it's very similar to someone that comes to the gym and says, like, I want to get to, I want to lose weight down to here. I want to get to this level of performance, or I want to get to this level of just sheer health, right? We always say it's never going to be one thing. It's not going to be just coming to the gym. It's not going to just be, avoiding too much alcohol or too much, watching your diet. It's just the sum of all these things. And, to avoid like that stress and anxiety level, when you lose it, you lose your cool. We've all done it before, right? And you lose control of your emotions. This is just another part to what you can do. Some people are into meditation and breathing, right? Some acupuncture can just be like another, bullet point under, are you really trying to avoid stress? And stress is such a killer. Like, we really have it. I've learned more about that during the pandemic and after since with myself and other people. Stress is such a killer. And if we can find little things here and there to help combat that, you just had that much more of an advantage to avoid those deep lows, right?
Yeah.
Sam, any thoughts?
Yeah, there are so many correlates in science that we take for granted that acupuncture works in concert with. For example, our whoops. What is it measuring? Like, so many people have whoops. It's measuring heart rate variability, which is a balance of your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system, right? So for most of us, when we get stressed, as Marissa said, our sympathetic system gets upregulated. We have a lot of stress hormones, cortisol. Blood flow gets restricted to the gut because that's what happens in flight or flight. You don't need your gut to work. You just need all the energy and blood and oxygen to go to your skeletal muscle so you can run away from the tiger or whatever it is. And if you're in that constant state, whether it be overtraining or stress in your life, these are the kind of things where your heart rate variability starts flatlining because your sympathetic nervous system is over-dominant.
Yes.
So any of these things, including acupuncture, which help you work the other end of it, which is the parasympathetics, help you of course it would help you with your digestion if you were limiting blood flow to your gut. Of course, we know parasympathetics regulate the gut systems tremendously. We know it regulates our mind tremendously. They're developing vagus nerve stimulators, not for physical conditions, but for mental conditions now. They're surgically implanting vagal nerve stimulators. And vagus nerve is one of the biggest nervous system related. It controls the parasympathetics.
Yep.
So when you look at the science behind it and then you see what acupuncture does and you're like, wait, how can it help me with my stress? How can it help me with my gut? How can it help me with healing? It makes sense because the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system regulate like 500 million different things in our body.
Wow. Okay.
And so that's why it works well for a variety of things, but it's more of a conditional thing, right? It's like it's helping to, as Marissa said, unblock or maybe just like clear the skies a little bit, that sort of thing. So so conditions are better for you to do whatever else you need to do.
Yes.
Back to that traffic analogy.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's a great analogy, yeah.
And if we go back to, simple anatomy 101, it's like all the systems in our body are already there, right? The systems are already in place. We just sort of think we mess with them, right? Stress messes with them, life messes with them. But when you clear the sky, it's always like, okay, we can go back to it. And, a lot of times people seek acupuncture as sort of their last resort. And I would just hope that this would be sort of the first thing that they might want to try.
So that my bullet point that I wanted to get to next, all right, what are 3 things that you wish everyone knew about acupuncture? And, is one of them to like, hey, this should be your first line of defense?
I do think that it should be one of the first things you seek out because oftentimes and not just with CrossFitters, with really anybody, they sort of gone through, they've gone to the doctor, they've got all the blood work, everything's normal, everything's fine. Maybe they've gotten an MRI and it's like, I have a herniated disc. And not to say that that's that's the diagnosis according to that, but that may or not be the reason why they have symptoms. And sort of they're coming in as this last resort. And that also is like, when is this going to work? When is this going to work? And it's like, I have to explain to them that the longer it's been going on, the longer it's going to take for it to work.
That's a good line. Yep.
So I would hope that might be the first thing that they choose. And also trust that I've had a lot of patients come in where I've said, you need to see a doctor first and understand that we have enough training to say, nope, get this checked out first. then come back to me.
Yeah.
Or
That's when you know, like, Marissa is in your corner. She's not just trying to take your money, you know, because, like, in some cases, I'm sure there are some people out there be like, just keep trying to work on you for the business sake of it. And again, it's hard to find. Sometimes it is hard to find that line of service and business, right? Pay your bills and help people, right?
Sure.
But the fact that she would actually, you know, refuse your business for the fact that you had to go see a doctor it's a good sign that you know she has your best interest in heart.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Just, you know, I always tell people it's about whether it's my job, I think, as a healthcare provider, whether it's with acupuncture or somebody else, we want to find you. We just want to get you well.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whether it's me or somebody else, find a path to get you well.
Right.
So
that's number one, or maybe number one.
Number one.
What's number two?
Number two, it's not a painful experience. It's really not a painful experience. The acupuncture needles are nothing like getting blood drawn. They're nothing like getting an injection.
Agreed.
It really is probably one of the most relaxing.
It is.
Parts.
Does it hurt you at all,
know?
Dave? You were saying it.
Well, you tell me this, Marissa, because my answer is no. But there are times where she gets more aggressive than others because we're trying to fix something, and I'm like, Marissa, you can cut me open if you want, if it's gonna help me get better. But you tell me. There's different levels and different needles. I remember you talking to me about that. You know, to me, I never really thought it was painful, but every now and then I get, oh, that felt kind of funny. You know?
Sure. So one of the ways that I treat muscular pain is through trigger points, or what we call like ashi points in Chinese medicine. It's just these really tight muscles, and you get these tight muscle fibers, and it's like you have a picture of muscle fiber like a rubber band, and you keep tying a knot in that rubber band, right? And it loses its range of motion, and you're not able to perform and function well. And the acupuncture sort of goes in and releases that muscle. And that's when you feel that sort of jump, that twitch, which some people like it. A lot of people don't like it.
It's more of like it's not even pain. It's more like a shock.
Yeah, it's just, it's a muscle like fasciculation.
Yeah.
But also, like, a muscle is electrically charged, right? So when you release that, like, it also helps restore normal function. So maybe that would be a little bit of the painful part of acupuncture, but I don't do that with everybody.
Now, if someone just comes in for the relaxation, like you have people that come in that are just trying to decompress. That kind of treatment is different than the soft tissue.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yes, it's different, but all of acupuncture, it's never just, let's just treat the problem, right? We're always treating the whole body. So there's always that relaxation part of it.
Okay.
But generally, it's not a painful experience.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge needle person, but I have never been there and not wanted to go because of the pain, like, ever. I've never been to an acupuncture appointment like, man, this really hurts a lot. It's more just like a quick little shock, but it's so much. It's not even comparable. Some people, again, they associate needles with getting blood drawn. It's nothing like that. It's nothing close.
I mean, they're basically as thin as human hairs almost.
I know.
You can barely see it.
Yeah.
So
I can't even, when she takes them out, I can't even feel them coming out. It's like I just like feel her like fingers touch my like whatever is being treated, and you don't even feel the needle coming out.
And there's no blood. I mean, if there is blood, it's literally like a drop of blood. And that's it. So definitely not that. And mostly it's just really to understand that it's a process and that it's not a miracle cure, right? It's based on science. It's going to take time, and most people are not going to be fixed within one visit.
Right. I mean, anything that guarantees it to be fixed right away is a lie. They're just trying to take your money.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also saying, again, something I've had to learn, and I'm sure you've had to learn too as a provider, like managing their expectations, right? Saying like, all right, well, you've had this for 2 years but you don't want, and it, just as a coach, right? But you don't want to do this, this, and this.
Yes.
But sort of also then like guiding them to this place too of saying like, I can really help you if you just like, I don't know, not do this.
It's an art to find the proper blend of being brutally honest and also making it soft enough to encourage them and want to take the steps in the right direction. That's where there's there is a lot of science in what you do, but there's a lot of art in what you do with the interpersonal interactions with people.
Yeah. I just want people to feel good.
Yep.
That's it. I mean, really, like,
as simple as it gets.
It's really as simple as it gets.
Yeah.
I just want to help you within whatever capacity that you want to be helped.
Yep.
Feel good. You get through life feeling better.
Yep.
That's what it's about.
Now, so we had number one was this should be the first form of treatment. Number two was it's not painful. What's the number three thing you want people to know about acupuncture?
I wrote this down, and maybe it's not going to relate to what you asked.
That's
but
all right.
I've seen people just to be nice to themselves and not put so much pressure on themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really.
Yeah.
Like, trust your body, know that it's capable of awesome things if you just give it a chance.
Yeah.
Like, really just give it a chance to
Yeah.
heal.
Fully support that.
And
Yeah.
don't be so, oh, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do that. And then they sort of like come in and it's just like, there's so many patients that like maybe I get too involved in like the mental aspect and I have to remind myself, like, I'm not your therapist.
I don't
Like,
know. That sounds like Dave to a T, right?
I know.
Marissa would probably, well, maybe we'll have another episode with Marissa and we'll just give stories the entire time.
Watch your ratings go way down. Yeah, it's enough of that. Yeah, just to be easy on yourself about,
Here's a question I have in regard to that, like just for myself, but also I'm sure other people would have this. Acupuncture, agree. First form of treatment. Should you combine acupuncture with other forms of treatment? Like, should I see Marissa Liza on this day, my PT on this day, my chiropractor on this day? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't believe it should all happen in one day. I think that just as similar in training, right, you're not really going to feel the results of it maybe for about a week or two later or even months later. But I think doing too much can be counterproductive. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do maybe at the same time, but I also do think it's a matter of finding out what works. So if you're doing too much, then it's like, was it the acupuncture? Was it the PT? Was it the chiropractor? I think each one definitely helps within their own capacity, but I would recommend doing one for an period of time, seeing where that works, and then maybe something else will do something that acupuncture couldn't help you with.
Okay.
Right? Like, you can come in for back pain and I can cure your back pain, but then if you're not learning proper mechanics, you're going to be in that same spot. So that's where other providers are going to be.
There's probably an induction period and then a maintenance period for some of these things. And if you look at these CrossFit athletes, they do a lot of, as you mentioned, everyone needs soft tissue work or body work, and they do that. And in addition, they mix in some other forms of treatment like acupuncture. I've seen that with the pro CrossFit athletes. What do you think of cupping? I see a lot of athletes involved in cupping, and do you have any comments on that?
I do believe in cupping. It sort of took off after Michael Phelps, right? He was the sort of one that brought it. I think it could be very effective. I don't do it because everybody else does it now. Right? Like, he's like, oh, I went to my massage therapist and they put cups in me. I'm like, okay, great. I'm not going to do that because you don't really need a license to do cupping. Somebody can just take a course. I'm going to stick to the needles.
Yeah.
Cupping is really good to help get all that, muscle fatigue out, right? It's pulling that to the surface. That's why you see the bruises on there, which are not painful. It's not anything bad. It's not bruise where you're going to touch it and it's going to hurt. But yeah, I do think it's effective. It's just not something that I choose to do. So
now is there, so we've talked about who this can help, how it can help them. Have you ever seen, just off the top of your head with all of your experience that you have, are there certain kinds of people that you don't think, is there like a general baseline common ground within people that do not respond well to acupuncture? Because I'm big on everyone should try it. I am big on that. And I say the same thing about CrossFit, but I will also say CrossFit's not for everyone. CrossFit Bison's not for everyone. Us coaches, we're not going to be the best coach for everyone. Is there anyone that you kind of have seen in the past, without obviously naming names, it's like it's just not working for them?
Yes, it's more so just somebody that want the quick fix. They want you to come in, they want to be better in 2 visits, and they don't want to do anything outside of treatment. And that's okay.
Yeah, and they don't follow this whole the system, the process, right? Like, I know that on days where you've been a little bit more aggressive with me in acupuncture, like, hey, don't go work out. I'm like, man, I really like today's spot. But I won't. And whenever a provider like you or Hartman or Marty, if you've ever told me like, hey, don't do this or don't go work out or don't work out before, I will always listen. And I've seen the opposite side of that with acupuncture with you, where I know someone was not supposed to be working out, but they were. And because again, it's their therapy, right, Sam? It's like, oh no, I need it. Like, you think you need it. You don't really need, right? You want. You have to know that difference between need and want. I would think that maybe someone that wants to put their own spin on things. Hey, I should be better in 2 visits. I need this to fix this problem right away, even though I've had it for 5 years and I've been to Marissa twice. That's the kind of person that would be probably a little bit harder to work with.
Yeah. But I think too, I've gotten better at saying, this is what do you expect from treatment?
Mhm.
I now ask that question.
Great.
And then if they say, well, I expect to be better in 3 visits, then I can say, well, you're not. And then they and then they can make an informed decision rather than them saying, oh, okay, and honestly, I do struggle with as a CrossFitter, like I'm like, oh, I this kind of hurts, but I really want to do this. And
Yeah,
I tell people if you're not going to take the time off
Mhm.
or not do, then it's just going to make it a little bit harder to get you better,
Yep.
or you're not going to get as better as you thought. And as long as they know that,
Yep.
that's fine.
Okay.
you know?
Every time I've used a treatment to try to maintain something like, okay, I'm on this training regimen or I'm doing this amount of volume and it's hurting me. But if I do this, like acupuncture, it'll allow me to keep squatting 3 days a week or working on my ring muscle ups or trying to do high volume this. That is a recipe for disaster. This is not supposed to allow you to do something that hurts you every time you do it.
Right.
But that's how we think about as CrossFitters.
Yep.
It's like, you know what? I can't do what I want to do because it's hurting me, so I'm going to use this treatment so that I can keep doing that.
Right.
You know what's really the problem, the underlying problem. And that's where it took me a while to figure that out too.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if I do all this soft tissue work, if I do all of this, I can keep working out the way I really want to work out. And maybe that's not really the case sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have one standout case study without naming a name? Because I know you guys can get in trouble for that. Just like one, maybe two stories of, wow, like this really changed someone's life. Like last week we talked about someone being taken off anxiety medication from doing CrossFit. Like that was one of the coolest things. Like the weight loss stories are cool. Someone qualifying for something is cool. But like that's like probably one of my favorite stories is having someone taking off anxiety medication because of CrossFit. Do you have a case study story that really is like, wow, acupuncture changed this person's life?
Yeah, I actually have 2. The one was actually not a CrossFitter. It was a young woman that came to see me, and she really wanted to have a family, and she really wanted to have a baby. And she were trying and trying and trying, and she also had these like timelines in her head. It was like, I'm going to be pregnant by I'm 28 in the summer, so then this would happen and this would happen. But she also had gone through this really stressful time in her life, and her body was just depleted. And I was saying, before you can even think about having another child or having a child, you need to get yourself better, right? So acupuncture was really good at sort of just building her body back up, getting her energy levels back up, getting her sort of out of that like adrenal fatigue state of, exhaustion, and getting her hormones regulated. She didn't really want to go the IVF route and do that stuff. And she was literally almost at that point. But I knew I could just like feel it because I had been working with her for so long that I was like, just give me like a couple more months. Like if you keep working with me, we'll get you there.
Yeah.
And sure enough, she got pregnant.
Wow.
And
That's
that was really awesome.
That's really cool.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
That was a good case.
That I can see that in my mind exactly. I worked an IVF rotation when I was in med school, and every patient was like that. Desperate to have a child, so anxious, timelines, schedules, have to do this, have to do that. And I know so many people have anecdotal stories of going through IVF and doing all this stuff and then just kind of giving up.
Yes.
And then getting pregnant because a lot of it was achieving that mind state. And, instead of having to go through 3 years of stress, IVF, failures to get to that point, whatever can help you achieve it faster.
Yeah.
It works.
Yes, it does. It really does. It's naturally saying, okay, we're going to help, prep your body. And even now, like, sometimes people come in like after they've had their first child and they're like, why am I not getting pregnant right away? I was like, do you realize that you worked, you were pregnant, you gave birth, and now 8 months later you want your body to do it again? Yeah. Like we gotta give ourselves a little time to recover.
It's like one of the first things you said is like, you just give yourself some grace on that, like it's one of the first things you said in this podcast.
Yeah. And then the second one was actually, it's not such, I don't guess it's great, but it was somebody that just had chronic back pain. Nobody could really figure out what was going on. Did the MRIs. It was like herniations and this and slip disc and was thinking about surgery. And I said, give me 3 months. And I just had and I normally don't say that. I never guarantee, but I was like, I know I can get you at least 70 to 80% better. I said, just stop. He was sitting certain ways at work, which was not helpful. That was really like a big thing that we worked on, and had him like set a timer on his phone, like every 10 minutes, you got to get up because you're literally sitting for 8 hours and not moving. That's not helping.
Yep.
And it was life-changing because he just got back to the activities that he wanted to do, which more than anything, it's like, I always say, like, you should want to live your life feeling well and do the things that bring you happiness, whether it's pick up your grandchild or go play ball, whatever it is. When you don't have that, that's the ticket.
Yeah, that's when it starts to spiral out of control sometimes. You know, you just no longer have that escape for you to really go and do what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
I really like that case because you had to be a holistic provider. So it wasn't like, oh, you have back pain? Okay, I'm going to come in, do the protocol for back pain, see you later. Like, you actually delved into his life and tried to figure out, like, all the other things that were going on in order to set yourself up for success as a provider. Because if all it is just paying you money and then you sticking the needles in, a lot of times that's not going to work if you don't figure out what else is going on. And that's what all providers have to do. They kind of have to be that holistic person.
Yes. And getting them to also, I think, to like, I mean, I like to actually admit that this is what they're doing and saying, like, it's okay that you're not doing what you should be doing. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I am sitting for 8 hours a day, but they don't want to admit it. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So getting to them to that place.
Yeah, and being truly honest with you.
Yeah.
They always say, don't never lie to your doctor, never lie to your lawyer.
and
or your CrossFit coach.
Oh, yeah.
And people do all three all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
I'm the worst patient. That's why I don't like to be one.
Yeah. Oh, do you I mean, you can't practice acupuncture on yourself, right? That wouldn't really work.
I do sometimes.
Can you?
Yeah, it's really not the same though. I mean, because part of the treatment is like that connection.
Laying down, that Zen.
Yeah, and it's sort of that like connection with the other person.
Yep.
But I mean, I definitely have like laid on my side. And,
Yeah.
All right, I think I could just get to that. And then sometimes like I'll release it. I'm like, oh, I do this to people.
Every time I work out, I do the same thing. Every time I do one of the bison wads, I'm like, man, I do this to people.
I tell you to do that, and I'm like, it hurts, and I'm like, you're fine.
The bison benchmark has thrusters to get to the competition.
Oh my God, that's so bad. Why?
I was gonna send you like the GIF today of like the nail in the coffin. Like you were just like, oh, you don't have to do it. Here you go.
Guys, event 4 for your competition this past Saturday is actually going to take place at the gym. Where do you want to take your business future?
Good question. I thought about this. I really want to just see, obviously, more patients, but really I like to maintain that family feel where it's, everybody, where it's not this sort of place of just a number coming in the door that, we've developed a relationship, that I'm somebody that you trust, that you can turn to. And, I think about bringing in different services and doing different things. And I struggle with that all the time.
Yep.
Like, oh, if I could do this, then maybe I do this, this, and this. I'm like, but do I really want the stress of that? But I just really want to keep it. I see medicine just becoming this, which is good in some ways. There's a lot of providers in one office. It's sort of like one-stop shopping, which is great. And that has its advantages as well. But I also like sort of that small feel where you're really taken care of from the moment you come in and you have a good relationship. So I would like to get out and do more education on acupuncture. People just don't know enough about it.
Yep.
And if they know enough, then they can make an informed decision. This is for me. This is not for me.
Right.
Where it's not this sort of like ethereal, like, ooh, voodoo type stuff.
Yep.
They know about it. They know it can help them. And then they can make an informed decision.
Okay.
So that's really
awesome.
What I hope.
Now, do you have, just in closing, do you have any other things that you just wanted to make sure you got out there, whether it's about, the way you approach treatment, acupuncture in general, any things that you could tie together with CrossFit and acupuncture?
Yeah, I think just the most important thing, and you guys always talk about this too, is really, advocating for yourself and taking control of your health. And acupuncture is just another step. And one thing that will help you just feel better, and something that you can do to give back to your body. That's really it. Just it's a wonderful medicine. It works. It's helpful. There is no negative side effects to acupuncture. So even if you come in and maybe you don't get the results that you wanted, there's nothing bad with it. It's only positive, right? So maybe you feel a little bit more relaxed in your day. It didn't help you as much as you wanted, but you just feel better about it.
Right.
And more so to just, we've sort of made, like I touched on before, we make excuses for our health and we think that, we shouldn't feel good or this is not what it should be like. And not so much with CrossFitters because we really are into health and fitness and we want to feel good and it's important, but also just to remember to give back to your body. Just really rest is so, so important. I know you guys talk about this all the time. But
people need the constant reminder. Trust me.
You could do all the acupuncture, you can do all the PT, you can do all the stretching, but if you really just don't give your body that reset, that chance to rest, anything.
That's what they call it. You burn the candle from both ends. At some point, something's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I said that to Sam. Like I wanted to, even to that competition tomorrow. Like yesterday, I wanted to like go in and be like, oh, and I'm like. My body had one gear. Yeah. It was one gear. And you know why? Because it was like I was working hard for 3 weeks. It wasn't going to happen.
Right.
So, understand that we do a lot and the rest is so, so important.
Yep. Completely agree. Sam, any closing thoughts?
No, I'm just really glad that we have a provider who does CrossFit because understanding CrossFit.
It's huge.
It's really unusual. You know what it's like when people don't know what CrossFit's about.
Yeah.
And then you treat them or they treat you. It's like, that's why Hartman's great, Marnie's great.
Yeah, they get it. They understand.
And so same thing. If you have an acupuncturist that understands CrossFit, understands you as a CrossFit athlete.
Right.
Because they do it.
Right.
All the difference.
Yeah, it's like this hurts on thrusters, but not on wall balls. Like you tell that to like some Dr. Schmo that doesn't know what CrossFit is. They're gonna look at you like you have 3 heads on. And Marissa's like, yeah, what's your Fran time? We should put that on your intake form. Fran time.
Like when people come in and they're like telling me certain things, they're like, oh, this, like I literally am like, I'm thinking like, medical brain. And then I'm like, okay, squat this, like that. Like you get like a, a feel for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It certainly helps,
all right.
To understand.
Yep.
So.
All right. Well, hey, this was great, Marissa. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of that. And
fun.
Yeah, Herd Fit Podcast, CrossFit Bites, and Dave Syvertsen, Sam Rhee, we all fully endorse Marissa. So if acupuncture is something you do want to try, we definitely want to promote Marissa and just give it a shot with her. Where can we find you? Just website, Instagram, or your address?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Love this place. Love you
our
guys.
pleasure.
Like,
our
awesome.
pleasure.
So it is Marissa Liza, All Points Acupuncture and Wellness Center, and my Instagram is at All Points Acu, ALLPOINTSACU, and the office is in Rochelle Park, New Jersey.
Right by the Garden State Plaza.
Yeah, right by the Garden State Plaza. Super close.
Yeah, very easy to get to. Trust me, very easy. All right, thank you guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit Podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.